Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we find ourselves in the library, where you must study for the big exam while cleaning up. With a knock of the magic wand on a precise stack of books, ta-da! You can learn an entire subject in an instant. You'll be placing books on your shelves in specific configurations, filling shelf compartments, and decorating with candles. Atheneum Mystic Libraries for 2 to 5 players takes 30 to 45 minutes to play, for ages 10 and up, and published by Renegade Game Studios. Today we'll be doing a rule school where I'll teach you how to set up the game so that you don't have to read the rulebook yourself. Now I've placed timestamps below me in the description of this video in case you want to jump to a specific section of the rules. Without further ado, let's get started. Atheneum Mystic Library is a puzzly strategy game for 2 to 5 players where you'll be building up not only your main shelf, but also side shelves with different book types. You'll be getting a hand of cards, and you'll be drafting cards from these and playing them one at a time. And you'll be passing the rest of these cards to your neighbor. These will give you benefits like adding specific books to compartments in your main shelf, but you'll also be giving benefits to your neighbors. Sometimes you'll be placing books, sometimes rearranging them to different compartments. Sometimes getting a bonus from the bag of tokens. You'll be trying to configure your shelves to meet objectives. And in doing so, you'll be able to place a wand, gaining points, and sometimes other benefits as well. And in the end, you'll be gaining points for having adjacent books of your favorite subject, completing compartments, and by placing candles. Let's see if you can puzzle out your library the best. To set up, you're going to place the library board in the center of the table where everyone can reach it. Near the board, you're going to place these double-sided side shelves, and you're going to place the spider tokens. Before your first game, you will assemble these 2 book bins. Then once you punch out all of the books, you'll place them in the corresponding bin with the associated color for all of the 5 different types of books. Next, you'll find all the bonus tokens. These have candles on one side, they're double-sided, and they have different things on the other sides. You're going to take all these tokens and place them in this bag. You'll set this bag off to the side, and the tokens in here are always randomized, so give it a good shake. You'll find the study cards. They're set in decks of A and B. Separate them out into those 2 decks, shuffle each deck separately, and then place them off to the side. Next, you'll find the deck of objective cards that look like this. You will shuffle that deck, place it in this spot on the board, and then you'll take the top 4 cards and placing them in these 4 spots face up like this. Next, each player is going to select one of these main shelves. In the upper right hand corner, it has a color and a book icon. Pick the one you like the best and place it face up in front of you with the icon in the upper right. Any shelves not used in this game can be placed back in the box. Now that icon in the upper right is a book subject as shown here, so feel free to pick your shelf based upon the color, the icon, or the actual subject of those books. Your main shelf has 5 different compartments. Take 1 spider token from the supply and place it in one of each of these compartments. It doesn't matter where in the compartment it is. Each player is going to locate the student pawn and the magic wands of their color. And each player will place their student pawn right near the 0 of the scoreboard. You'll keep 2 of your magic wands next to your main shelf, and you'll put the rest as a supply right on the library board with the wand icon. The object of the game is to have the most points at the end. Over the course of the game, you're going to be building up your shelves with different books. During the game, you'll be scoring points for completing specific objective cards, like having these books in a very specific alignment like you see here. Those are going to gain you points and sometimes additional bonuses. At the end of the game, you're going to be scoring points for your shelves book subject for adjacent books of that type, completely filling compartments within your shelf, and for candles within your shelves. There's other ways to score, but I'll go over those in more detail later. The game is played over 2 phases, A and B. Think of it as 2 halves of the game. In each of these phases, there are going to be 5 turns, and each turn goes through 4 steps. At the beginning of Phase A, you will deal 6 Phase A cards to each player face down. In Step 1, you're going to play cards. So you'll look at your cards, you'll select one to place face down in front of you. Once all players have done this, each player will flip up their single card that they've selected for this step. Then, each player is going to pass the rest of the cards that they did not select clockwise to their left as denoted by the arrow direction on these Phase A cards, which means you're going to be receiving cards from other players, but do not look at these cards yet, just keep them face down off to the side. The next step is resolving benefits. This is the card that was in front of us, this is the card that's in front of the player to our left, this is the card that was flipped up to the player to our right. Now these cards are usually in front of those players, but I brought them closer in frame here to show you how this works in more detail. You are going to resolve the benefits on the single bottom section here on the card that you played. So this is getting a green and a blue book, essentially Beastly and Biographies and Memoirs are the subjects of those books. From the player to your left, you're going to resolve the benefit of the upper section that's closest to you. In this case, it's this sort of bluish section here, so I'll get a purple book. And from the player to the right, since this is the closest section to me, from where I'm sitting to them, this greenish section, you will get this. So you're going to get the bottom section for what you played, the closest upper section from the player to your left, and the closest upper section to the player to your right. So in this case, I'm going to get a green book, a blue book, a purple book, and 2 points. And when you gain points, you simply move up on the score track. Now you'll decide the order in which to resolve your own benefits, but you can collect and use as much or as little of those benefits as possible, meaning the benefits are always optional. However, as you'll see later, any book tokens or any tokens that that you don't use get lost at the end of this turn. You'll see there's little grid lines here, so I'm going to choose to place them all in the same compartment. So I've decided to place them all just like this. Notice that I've moved the spider to the last spot. We'll talk about what happens when you complete a specific compartment later. Now, if you were playing a 2-player game and this was your card and this was the other player's card, you'll get both benefits on the top. So you'd get 2 points and a green book for this example. In addition, of course, to the ones you'd get for the bottom section that you played. Now let's talk a little bit more about the placement of these books. I mentioned that earlier they have to be vertical and they slot in these different spaces as shown by the grid lines. But they have to be supported on at least one side, and a support will be either a wall or another book. So this could not be placed in this middle section because there's not a wall or a book on either of these 2 sides. So if it's the first book, it'd either have to go here or over here like that. And that's of course saying that I'm going to be placing it in this compartment. You can place it in any compartment. Now when stacking books, you must place a book directly on top of another book, meaning it is supported from below. Meaning that even though this book has support from a wall, it doesn't have anything directly below it, so you could not place it here. You also could not place it here. Even though it has support below it, it does not have a book or wall support on either side, so you could not place this one here because it breaks the earlier rule that I talked about. Now, if you're taking a book for a benefit and it's gray like this, you can take any of the book types. Now, if you are getting this benefit, you can take any book and it can be placed in this compartment. And in this case, when we look at the main shelf, it's this compartment right here as shown on that card. Of course, you need to follow all of the earlier said placement rules. If you're getting this benefit, it allows you to remove up to this many books and reshelve them. Now to remove a book, you simply take it from one compartment and you can place it in another one, like this. Now this allows you to do it up to twice because there's 2 books, but different cards vary how many books you could possibly do this to, but you don't have to do all of them. You could do less than the amount that's shown there. However, when doing so, you must follow all the rules as before, meaning that you cannot take this out and reshelve it, leaving this book with nothing below it with no support, because that is illegal, so you could not just reshelve that book there. However, you could first take this one and reshelve it. Let's say you move it over here. Now I couldn't take this one again because this one now no longer has any support, but I could maybe then reshelve this one and move it over here. If you were getting this benefit here, you can take one of the side shelves from the supply. You would then take that and place it either to the right or the left of your main shelf, lined up with the bottom of your main shelf, and you must place a spider token on it. If you're getting this benefit, you take one of your colored wands from the supply, and you would add it to your personal supply that is just off to the side from your main shelf. These are going to be used to score objective cards that I'll show you in just a moment. If you are getting this benefit, it shows a hand going into a bag, you'll randomly take one of the bonus tokens from the bag. You'll then decide which side to use. If it's the candle side, you can place it in one of the spots and you'll get a certain amount of points at the end of the game depending on where you've placed this. Or you could use the other side, and these do different things, like in this case there's 2 books. You can place it in your compartments following all normal placement rules. And the tokens in this bag might have icons using the different benefits that we've already talked about. Now earlier we talked about these spiders and how they can sort of move around and stay in a compartment, but once you fill it up, something cool happens. Let's say we were reshelving this book and we've placed it here and we've completed this compartment. this spider has been captured. You will place it back into the supply, and you'll select from one of these bonuses: gaining a magic wand from the supply to next to your main shelf, getting a bonus token from the bag, placing any book type that you'd like, or getting a side shelf. So in your turn, we've already played a card and we've resolved the benefits. Now we're going to possibly score objectives. Let's just say our shelves look like this right now, and notice that we have a green, then a blue, then a purple book here side to side. Now here we have the objective cards down here. Each player is able to complete each of these objectives once. So even if someone else has completed one of these cards, you can still complete it. Now if we look here, there's the green, blue, and purple book that I had just mentioned that we had on our shelf in that exact configuration. So I could take one of the wands that were right beside my main shelf, not the ones from the supply, but from next to our shelf, and we place it on here to show that we have completed this objective. Then we'll get this bonus. In this case, we'll get 3 points on the score track, and we'll get another wand, which immediately we'll take from the supply and put it next to our main shelf. We're able to continue to use this turn. And again, for each of these that you can complete right now, and you have a wand for it, you can place it there. So you can complete multiples of them on the same turn. And reminding you that other players can do so as well, but no one can ever have more than one of their wands on any single objective card. Some of these cards not only have a specific configuration of books and types of books, but also need to be done in a specific compartment of your main shelf. For example, these ones have to be stacked just like this and has to be in one of your 2 side shelves. Or some of them need specific configurations within your different compartments, but they could be any types of books, notated by these being gray. After players have possibly scored objectives, then you go to the last step in the turn, cleanup. The furthest right card here will go off the board into a discard pile. Any wands here are returned to the supply, not back to the players, but to their supply. So this will go in a discard pile. The rest of the cards are slid to the right one spot, and then another card from the top of the deck gets placed face up in that open slot. Then everyone's played card this turn will be discarded into a face-up discard pile off to the side. Then you'd start that entire sequence over again with step 1 of playing cards. Remember, now you'll have one more to choose from, and you'll go through those 4 steps: playing cards, resolving benefits, scoring objectives, and cleanup. Now on the 5th turn of this, you'll have 2 cards left. After looking at them, you'll select one of them to play face down as normal, and instead of passing this to the left, this card is going to be discarded into the discard pile. And you'll resolve the rest of the steps as normal. Once the 5th turn of the A phase is complete, you'll then take the deck of the B phase and you'll deal out 6 cards to every player, just like you did in the A phase. Now you'll play the B phase just like the A phase. You'll be taking 5 turns going through all the same steps, with the only difference is, instead of passing to the left, this shows you that you will be passing the cards to the right. And during that 5th turn, again, you'll select one card and the last one will get discarded. And once you finish the 5th turn in this phase B, the game will end. Let's say this was your shelf at the end of the game. In addition to the points you've already accumulated throughout the game, you're going to score for 4 other ways. You're going to look at the subject of book of your main shelf, and you're going to look for books that are adjacent. Diagonals do not count for adjacency. You're going to get a point for each of these. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This one does not get one because it's not adjacent to another book of that type. Neither will this one. So you get 9 points for your favorite subject. You'll also get points for filling compartments. If we look at this compartment, it's completely filled, so we'd get 2 points. This one's completely filled, you'd get 6 points. This one's completely filled, you'd get 6 points. This one is completely filled, you'd get 3 points. We'd also look at the candles. They're going to get you a certain amount of points, like 2, 3, and 4. And any unused wands at this point by the side of your shelf, not in the supply, is going to also gain you a point for each of those. At that point, the player with the most points is the winner. If it's tied, the player with the most shelved books is the winner. And if it's still a tie, it goes to the player with the most shelved books of their favorite subject. And if it's still tied, they share the victory. Well, I hope this helped you dive right into Atheneum Mystic Library. Now, if you have any further questions about the rules, I've placed a link below me in the description of this video, and that's the best place to ask them since I'll be notified, but so will Renegade Game Studios.